So, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another live stream. So, in today's live stream, I shall be basically talking about a very easy, simple, and a basic chapter, which is surface chemistry. Okay, so this chapter, surface chemistry, it basically has three to four important concepts, and the remaining concepts are also very easy, but this chapter has its most of the part, you have to just remember the definitions, the comparisons. Okay, so this chapter is based on those type of things. Okay, it's not just that you will have to like it's not basically, you cannot classify this chapter completely as a physical chemistry chapter or as a inorganic or organic chemistry chapter. Okay, so this chapter has some 5 to 6 basic and important concepts. So today I shall be telling you in this live stream that how should you begin or how should you start this chapter when you are preparing it for board exams or for CBSC exams or for JEE NEET exams. Okay, so this is a very basic chapter, and Arya Zaid, I have told you that today we shall be talking about surface chemistry. Okay, so let's begin. I'll share my screen. Okay, so I hope my screen is visible to all of you. All right. Okay, so I'll write the chapter name over here on the top. Surface chemistry. Okay, so now let's begin with this chapter. So, uh, what is surface chemistry? Okay, so surface chemistry, it's basically a type of chemistry, or it is a type of science which deals with the phenomena happening at the surfaces. Okay, so I will write over here what is surface chemistry. So, surface chemistry, surface chemistry is a science that deals that deals with the phenomena phenomena taking place at the surface of the, let's say, substances. Now these substances can be your reactants or anything else. Okay, so this is the basic definition of surface chemistry. Also, if any one of you has any doubt and you're watching the live stream, you have any doubt, so you can put it up in the chat box right here. Okay, and I will try to answer your query as soon as possible. Okay, now moving on, the first basic topic, okay, of this chapter, and this topic is 70% asked in your board exams. Okay, so the topic is adsorption. Ad, it's not absorption, it's adsorption. Okay, adsorption. Okay, So now, what is this topic adsorption, and what importance does it have? So I will just write it over here. Okay. So the definition of adsorption. This is a bookish definition which you have to remember, because in exams they, when checking of answer sheets takes place, they usually only concentrate for bookish language. Okay. So I suggest that you remember the bookish language for this. Okay. So the bookish definition is the the accumulation, accumulation of molecular species accumulation of molecular species at the surface rather than the bulk of the solid is okay, so rather than the bulk of the solid is known as, yeah, or is termed as adsorption. Now one very important thing, actually we also write it for solid slash liquid. Okay, adsorption can be found in liquids also. Okay, so this is the bookish definition for my adsorption. Okay, first we talked about the surface chemistry, and now we are talking about the adsorption. Okay, now for understanding adsorption, there are two important terms which you have to understand. Okay, those two important terms are, the first term is adsorbent. Adsorbent. Okay, and the second important term is adsorbate. Okay, so I will come on to this right now, but first let me tell you that my adsorption is of two types: physiosorption and chemiosorption. Okay, we will discuss these both in the detail, if possible. Okay, so first let's talk about your adsorbate and adsorbent. Okay, let me choose a suitable pen. Okay, now the okay, so I will suggest, now for this also I will suggest, please remember the bookish definition itself, because in your exams, CBSE exams I'm talking about in particular here, board exams, the marks are only given on the basis of the language which you have used while writing the answers. Okay, so sometimes it also happens that if you have a good vocabulary, if you have a good English, and if you are not able to remember the exact definition, you create your own. Okay, you create your own definition, then that also helps a lot. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so now let's get back to the definition for adsorbent and adsorbate. Okay, so definition is something like this: the molecular species or substance the molecular species or substance which accumulates at the surface is known as adsorbate. Okay, and the material, the material on the surface, the material on the surface of which adsorbate, adsorbate accumulates or sticks. Adsorbate accumulates is is known as adsorbent. All right. So now let's take an example. Suppose I have a chalk. I will draw my chalk over here. What is this? This is my chalk piece. Okay, white chalk, not a colored one. Okay, I have a chalk piece and I have a ink bowl. Okay, what is this? This is my ink bowl or ink pot. Now, this ink pot contains blue colored ink. Okay, my ink pot contains blue colored ink. Try to understand the concept behind it. Okay, don't just mm, think about my drawing and all. Okay, now if I dip this chalk piece inside my ink bowl for let's say 10 seconds or 15 seconds, and then I take it out, then I simply take it out, so I will see that my, okay, not only the portion which was dipped, that will get blue, definitely that will get blue, but also that the blue colored portion starts coming up. Okay, so what I mean to say is I'll try to draw over here. Okay, suppose we dipped your chalk piece up to here. Okay, so this portion gets blue. Definitely this gets blue. But when you take it out, after some time, you will see that this portion has risen up to here. It rises up to here. Okay, now why is it this thing happening? So this is happening due to coercive forces and retention. Okay, so this is an advanced topic, and this is usually not asked in a board exam. Now, what are our topics of concern, or what is our subject of concern over here? Okay, for CBSE board students. Okay, so for CBSE board students, now if I tell you to identify what was adsorbate and what was adsorbent, so I hope that you can tell me, sir, ink ball or the ink molecules, blue colored ink molecules are my, these are my adsorbate, because when you dip your chalk piece in the ink, very small tiny molecules of ink stick on the, or they start accumulating on the surface of chalk piece. Got it? And what is my adsorbent? Obviously the material on the surface of which adsorbate accumulates. is known as adsorbent. Okay, now moving on. So next we have types of adsorption. Okay, so I will write over here types of adsorption. So my first type is physiosorption, and my second type is chemiosorption. Right? So these are my two basic types of adsorption. Okay. Now, what is the difference between these two and what exactly happens? So I will try to summarize this in a tabular format. Okay. Uh, okay. Thank you, Khel Pe Charcha. Thank you so much. If anyone of you has any doubts, please put it up in the chat box. I will try to answer it as soon as possible. Okay. Moving on, we now come to the types of adsorption. Okay, so I told you how to get a ideal start for this chapter. First, you have to talk about what is surface chemistry, where is it used, what are its applications. Okay, here we only talked about the bookish definition of surface chemistry. Okay, then next you have to move on to the first topic, that is adsorption. Okay, ADSORPTION, adsorption. Okay, this topic is 90% of time it's asked in your board exams, and it is asked very straightforwardly. Okay, they do not just put it up in a confused manner. They will ask you in a very clear cut and straight manner, what is adsorption, what are its applications, state the types of adsorption. Okay, or they may ask you what is the mechanism of adsorption. Okay, now moving on to the types of adsorption. Okay, so types of adsorption, we have two types of adsorption, physiosorption and chemiosorption. Okay, so now for physiosorption, what happens basically, I'll try to write over here. My first point is it arises because of it arises because of van der Waals forces. Okay, this is my first point. It arises because of van der Waals forces. Chemiosorption is caused by the chemical bond formation. Chemical bond formation. Okay, so now we are discussing types of adsorption. The first type is physiosorption and the second type is chemiosorption, right? So now, as I've told you that physiosorption arises because of van der Waals forces. Chemiosorption arises because of the chemical bond formation. Okay, so this is the very basic difference between these two. Next point, it is not specific in nature. It is not specific in nature. It is not specific in nature. Okay, now next, it is specific in nature or it is highly specific. Okay, so now what do I mean by specific is that suppose a chemical reaction is taking place and physisorption phenomena comes into play over there. Okay, so it is not always possible that 90% 100% of the times that my physisorption will always come into play whenever there is van der Waals forces of interaction. Okay, but whenever a chemical bond formation takes place, let's say between an adsorbate and an adsorbent, chemisorption will always be present. Okay, so this is why we have used the word here specific. Okay, now the third part here is it is reversible in nature. It is reversible in nature, and the third point here is it is irreversible in nature. Okay, now enthalpy of adsorption. So enthalpy of adsorption is basically the energy that may be gained or that may be released whenever your adsorbate sticks to the surface of adsorbate. Okay, so enthalpy of adsorption is low. Okay, but here enthalpy of adsorption is high. Okay, so I have discussed some 4 to 5 important differences between physiosorption and chemiosorption over here. Okay, and there are 4 to 5 some more differences. Okay, now so this was the ideal start to your chapter surface chemistry. Okay, so after you have read all these terms, what all topics you will have left with to cover in a chapter, important topics. Okay, so one important topic is adsorption isotherms. This is very, 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 very important with respect to numerical or with respect to graphical point of view. This chapter or this topic is super, super important because one question is definitely asked from over here, from this chapter. Okay, so highlight is as much as you can. Adsorption isotherm. Okay, and a direct question of 3 marks will be asked from here. Okay, next we have your adsorption from solution phase. Okay, so first adsorption isotherm. This is basically for solids, you can say. Next you have adsorption in liquid phase. Okay, so basically what happens is that there is a Friedrich isotherm. Okay, I will write it over here. Friedrich isotherm. Now, some of you might be confused that sir is again and again saying the term isotherm. So, isotherm is nothing but a constant temperature graph, you can say. It's a constant temperature graph. Okay, so isotherm is drawn in that way. Okay, I hope you understood now. So, whenever we are talking about a isotherm, your temperature will be constant and the other properties may be variable. Okay, now okay, so I've told you about the Friedrich isotherm, adsorption and adsorption in liquid phase. After this comes in your catalysis. This is also important because they usually ask a question from here on this topic. What is catalysis and define the types of catalysis? So we have two types: homogeneous and heterogeneous catalysis. Okay. Now, what is the difference between two and all? You will have to read it. Okay. Then next is my adsorption theory for catalysis and mechanism of catalysis. Okay. And enzyme catalysis. Okay. So these are some of the important topics I am trying to note down over here for you all. Okay. So after that, this is important. Fuselic isotherm. Then my catalysis, catalyst types, homogeneous, heterogeneous, and adsorption theory. Okay, then enzyme catalysis. And the last and the important most topic of this chapter is colloids. Okay, now colloids and type of colloids and type of colloids. Okay, now I am not written what are the type of colloids over here because the division of colloids or the classification of colloids can be done on various types, whether it can be on the nature, it can be on the dispersed phase and dispersed medium. Okay, and then you also have a Brownian motion over here. Brownian motion, this is also asked. Okay, then you have your purification of colloidal solutions. Purification of colloidal solutions, this is a bit important because this has been asked several times in board exams. Okay, so here you have your dialysis and your electrodialysis and ultrafiltration and ultrafiltration, right? So these are all the important topics for this chapter. Acha, there is one more last topic I would like to tell you important which you can read: emulsions. Okay, so emulsion is nothing but a solution of a liquid in a liquid. Okay, so emulsion can be I'll tell you, it can be, let's say, water in oil or oil in water. Now, what is the difference between two and what are the characteristics of each of these? This is important, which you have, which is asked in your CBSE board exams. And sometimes JEE NEET questions also come from over here, from Brownian motion, from ultrafiltration, electrodialysis, dialysis, types of colloids. Okay, so these are the all the important and basic topics of this chapter. So as I told you in the starting of the stream, that this chapter is basically a complete theoretical chapter except for one formula, that is Friedrich isotherm for solids and adsorption in liquid phase. There you have a graph which you have to remember and a formula. Okay, otherwise this whole chapter is completely based on your theory knowledge. Okay, as much as you can remember. Okay, so that will be all from my side for now. Okay, and if you guys have any doubts, then you can post it up over here. I'll try to answer it right now. Okay, otherwise that will be all from my side. If you guys want to know more about chemistry, know tips and tricks and hacks and how should we study for the board exams, how should we study in daily life, then please visit www.mytutorsonline.org. Okay, and we also are organizing some of the crash courses. So the registration is gonna end very soon. Register as soon as possible. Okay, so yes, it's surface chemistry, Vishnu Alke. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the stream, and that will be all from my side for now. I shall be back soon with another stream. Okay, so for any queries related to the tutoring portion, you can visit our website www.mytutorsonline.org. Okay, so that will be all from my side for now, and thank you. Have a good day ahead.